All right, let's dive into something pretty wild. An idea from the Seeing Sharp blog that just might change how you see, well, everything. What if one single repeating pattern, just a simple feedback loop, is the blueprint for the entire universe? I mean, from a tiny particle of light all the way up to your own consciousness. Let's get into it.
So it really all boils down to this one question. What if everything, all the beautiful, messy complexity of our universe, is just the same simple song played in different ways? That's what we're going to do here. We're going to follow that thread, that simple loop, from the inside of your own mind all the way out to the edges of physics. Okay, so where do we even begin a journey like that? Well, we're going to start with the one system you know better than any other, you. Let's take a look at what consciousness, what you, actually is. Now, this quote right here, it kind of flips the script on how we usually think about ourselves. I mean, we're all taught that I am this little person living inside my skull, right? But what if the picture is so much bigger, so much more dynamic than that? Just think about it for a second. You aren't just one thing. You are this unbelievable coordination of all these different parts. We're talking trillions of cells chatting with each other, neural networks firing in these incredible patterns, hormones washing over everything. No single cell is you, right? But somehow all of them working together create this seamless, coherent experience of being alive. And that's the key takeaway here. Consciousness isn't a thing you can point to in one spot. It's more like a resonance, you know? It's a pattern that emerges from all those countless interactions happening at once. It's like the beautiful, complex chord that a massive orchestra plays. It's not in any one instrument, it's in the harmony they create together. Okay, so if we are this interactive pattern, this resonance, what's the actual shape of that interaction? This is where we get to the secret key, that simple loop we've been hunting for. The source material gives it a name, the Contextual Feedback Model, or CFM for short. Now, this isn't trying to solve the giant mystery of why we're aware. It's much more practical. It's just describing a super fundamental pattern for how any system, and I mean any system, from a cell to a whole society, learns, adapts, and builds up a history over time. And here it is. This is the whole shebang, the core loop, in just 4 simple steps. Input, something happens. Interpretation, the system sees that something through the lens of its own past. Output, it does something in response. And feedback, that whole interaction changes the system, even just a tiny bit, for the next time around. This is it. This is the engine that builds memory and history into, well, everything. All right, now let's zoom way out. If this simple loop works for one person, what happens when you look at a much, much bigger scale? Can we find the same pattern in how whole societies and cultures operate? To get our heads around this, the source uses this brilliant analogy from computer science. So you can scale things in 2 ways, right? There's vertical scaling, which is like building one giant, super powerful computer, a single big eye. But then there's horizontal scaling, which is what things like Amazon's cloud do. They spread the work across thousands of smaller computers that all coordinate. There's no single boss, just a huge, intelligent network. And that second one, that horizontal network, that is exactly how a culture works. Think about it. A culture has memories. It has beliefs. It thinks in a way. But there's no single brain in charge of culture. It's a distributed system, a massive network of individual minds all running that same feedback loop and constantly influencing each other. So how do ideas and beliefs actually travel through this giant distributed network of minds? Well, they travel as memes. And hold on, we're not just talking about funny cat pictures here. We're talking about the original scientific idea from Richard Dawkins. A meme is like a gene, but for culture. It's a little packet of information that carries a pattern for how to see the world and how to act in it. Let's take a classic example, the phrase egg on your face. That's a meme, and it's so much more than just the dictionary definition, isn't it? When you hear it, you get this whole package. You get the cringy feeling of embarrassment. You get that sticky, literal image, and you get the whole social situation of being called out in public. See? It's this rich, layered bundle of interpretation that shapes how we experience something. Okay, deep breath. We're about to make a huge jump. We've gone from a single mind to a whole society. Now we're going to zoom all the way down to the quantum level. And we're going to ask, is our little loop still there? We tend to think of something like a photon, a particle of light, as just a simple, tiny billiard ball. But it's not. Even a photon has an internal state, basically its energy level. A high-energy violet photon is just different from a low-energy red one. It interacts with the world in a completely different way. That internal state defines what's possible for it.
Now check this out, because this is a real thing in physics. It's called Raman scattering. It's a process where a photon actually hits a molecule, and when it comes out the other side, its energy level has changed because of that interaction. It literally comes out a different particle than the one that went in. And would you look at that? It's our loop. It's the exact same pattern. The input is the photon hitting the molecule. The molecule's unique structure acts as the interpretation filter. The output is the photon leaving with a new energy level. And the feedback? The photon's internal state has been permanently changed, which completely alters how it's going to interact with the next thing it meets. It's the same loop, even here, at the very foundation of reality.
Wow. Okay, so we've been on quite a journey. From our own consciousness to the way cultures think, all the way down to quantum physics. And we found the exact same simple loop every single time. So let's put all the pieces together and look at the big picture. So this is the path we've traced. At every single scale, every level of magnification you can imagine, we see the same fundamental dance of interaction and change. The quantum level, the biological, the psychological, the social. The details change, the complexity skyrockets, but that core architecture, it stays exactly the same. And this brings us to the core concept of this whole idea, the resonance fractal. Why a fractal? Because a fractal is a shape where the same simple pattern repeats over and over at different scales. And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's how the universe builds all its incredible complexity, not from some top-down master plan, but from one elegant rule, repeated again and again and again.
So what does all this mean for you right now? It means you're not what you think you are. You're not some isolated mind locked in a skull looking out at a separate world through your eyes. You are an active, inseparable participant in this whole cosmic process. You are a resonance humming within the fractal.
In fact, what's happening right now, you watching this, is a perfect example of the loop. The input is the light and sound coming from your screen. You're interpreting it all through your own unique beliefs and experiences. You're having an output, a feeling, maybe curiosity, maybe you're skeptical, who knows? And that whole process is the feedback, subtly shifting your internal state, which will color the very next thoughts you have. And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important takeaway. If you aren't just an observer, but an active participant, a living, breathing, interpreting pattern in this cosmic fractal, then the big question isn't just what do you see? The question is, what do you create? You're part of the song. So what will you resonate next?